Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you today as we try to present some of our ideas about performance testing being an integral part of defining and maintaining service level agreements around SOA. In today's expanding world of shared online resources, most consumers, internal or external, require reasonable delivery of services and data, especially when they are paying for those services or data. Whether implied or documented, there is a certain degree of performance that's going to be expected. Service level agreements address situations where a defined service level is contractual or required for regulatory compliance. Today, SLAs are increasing in frequency. In general, commerce and business-to-business deployments. Specifically for SOA implementations, SLA defines the services provided with detail about availability and performance. The key to understanding the capabilities of an SOA implementation is a well-defined battery of rigorous performance tests that analyze and provide verifiable information about the capabilities of a system. Then a mechanism to periodically reevaluate the performance and SLA criteria to ensure notification as SLA limits are approached or even possibly exceeded. Here's a quick overview of the topics that we would like to cover today, starting with general information about SOA, and that's just to set the stage, an overview of service level agreements around SOA, and then moving into the topic of performance testing SOA services. We will get into some of the challenges of SOA performance testing, and then finally our methodology and approach. From Wikipedia, a definition for SOA is an architectural paradigm, meaning model or example, providing a mechanism for dealing with business processes distributed over a wide variety of existing and new heterogeneous systems, and that means just different or varying, that are under the control of different owners. One of the benefits of SOA is that data and services can be made available in the form of an open and available service regardless of the system, regardless of the technology, location, age, size, or anything else really. However, this unfortunately is also what adds to the complexity of the performance testing. While web services are emerging as the de facto standard, SOA is not the same as web services. SOA is the paradigm, while web services are one possible solution to realize a specific implementation strategy. I did try to find information about the prevalence of SOA that is currently being implemented as web services. Didn't find anything really conclusive, but I do suspect that the majority of it is, so I'm just going to say that a lot of SOA is implemented as web services. There are many benefits to SOA that are beneficial at many different levels within organizations. SOA does add complexity to performance testing because it can use a very wide variety of different technologies, operating systems, hardware, middleware, databases, and other proprietary items. When considering a multi-technology SOA implementation for performance testing and analysis, the size and complexities of that testing can appear very overwhelming. A service level agreement is a formal contract between a service provider and a consumer, usually guaranteeing quantifiable availability and performance at different levels. SLAs offer service providers a way to distinguish themselves from their competitors in today's volatile and competitive markets. SLAs can be either very general or extremely detailed, but either way, a service provider must have a thorough understanding of the capabilities of the system and have a mechanism for monitoring the system to be able to provide an SLA and protect themselves from risk of failure. Quality is a key element in software development, and it should go without saying that the more consumers that are expected on an SOA implementation, the more important it becomes to have a good quality assurance and test team to validate those services and as well as the performance. How can you ensure that the service level requirements of your consumers can be or are being met? The only real way to verify the capabilities of a system is to conduct a series of testing efforts specifically focused on evaluating the capabilities of the system compared to the SLAs that are in place. Testing will provide insight into capabilities and limitations of the system. And then once live, monitoring will provide information about when the service is approaching the limits of its capability. Performance tests designed specifically to test the traffic levels, messages or queries over time, and response times of an SOA implementation are critical to the success of any service provider. The results of the performance testing will provide business-related information indicating how much of the service can be sold and when it will be required to add to the capabilities of that service. The key to successful performance testing requires a fairly in-depth understanding of the application and service, as well as the usage of the service in order to generate accurate anticipated volumes of consumer traffic. And then, at the same time, while you're investigating the impact of that traffic on the system that's under test. To effectively test an SOA implementation, performance testing efforts will have to focus on the service level instead of the system level. Standard web performance testing focuses on the browser-based end-to-end transactions. With SOA, there is generally no interface, and the transaction is much smaller. At least the number of steps to complete a transaction. Sometimes it's just a single request and a single response. Even though the transaction may be smaller, the test team will require a broader set of technical skills to effectively evaluate the performance of an SOA implementation. The SOA performance test teams will require a detailed technical understanding of SOA. They must also be experts of domains within the business line. They must understand the technology used to develop the service